everyone, today we're taking a look at the Sub250 OasisFly30 with the O4 in it. Of course, they had the OasisFly30 with the O3 in it, so that will really be the only difference in what we've seen previously. But there are a couple little tweaks because the O3, O4 sizes are a little bit different. But in a nutshell, this is, as the company's name kind of dictates, under 250 grams with a 720 milliamp 4S battery, and it's a pretty smooth little freestyler. The flight controller is the Red Fox A30. That is a 45 amp all-in-one, and you can see right down in here we have a little port. That is where our special little dongle comes in that connects to USB-C. So another case of don't lose that dongle. These come with side panels, which I always kind of struggle to get in. I doubt I'll be able to do that in the short time frame I'm talking about it. But they do have the 3D prints available. The material they used is not a flexible type of print material. It's more hard, as you can probably hear as I bang it off the carbon fiber. But I thought I would lose these in my flights and tumbles, but they did not come out or break. These are also that same sort of material, and they are secured around these rear posts, so those don't have to come out in order to access the USB panel at all. But our receiver is underneath here, and that receiver in my case is the Express LRS. It does have the cube antenna, which you might see down there through the crack, so not optimal for range. Motors are 1404, and they are 4500 kV. And on those motors are HQ 3x3x3 tri-bladed props. And we have two antenna back here, and they are mounted in a 3D print. You can also see we've got a T-style antenna that we could have right back here, say for crossfire or a different Express LRS sort of receiver. Our O4 sits right back here. We've got our USB port on this side with our bind button up there and our SD card slot readily available. There is the slightest bit of camera protection for the O4 camera, but that's pretty normal with these wide FOV HD systems. Getting any sort of camera protection, that's pretty rough. But you can see at the camera angle that I've been using, which is maxed out, that we do have some camera protection. That camera protection is metal, by the way. Right down in here, these pieces are all rubber, so they provide a little bit of vibration dampening. We've got a split deck design here on the frame, so we have one piece that runs from the rear arms to the nose, and another piece that runs from the tail up to the front arms, and those sandwich the arms in between. And look at all those screws. Thankfully, they're 1.5 millimeter hex-headed screws, and we can replace the individual arms based upon this sandwich sort of plate design. It also comes with these feet for your landing purposes to stay off all those screws on the bottom, but it doesn't really provide any carbon fiber protection around the top. Got the motor wire tape I always approve of. We got the thinner stuff here. It looks like 10 or 12 millimeters, and we've got it on all our motor wires to keep those securely in place. It does have a pretty sticky battery pad, and actually fresh brand new. When I first couple peels of batteries off of here, I had to be careful not to pull the battery mat off because it was super sticky. Battery strap also has a bit of a texture here, and it's not sticky, but it's not slick. It's just kind of different than the pleather that we usually have. By the way, it is an XT30 for your battery connection. It does come with an extra set of props, a little repair bag here with some extra rubber pieces for your camera mounting. You can see we got two different styles. We've got some O4 mounting screws. We've got some prop screws, some motor mounting screws. We've got a little hex driver in there. And it looks like we actually have two standoffs as well. We also have their mount that you can put on the front of the quad if you want to run an external HD camera, say a naked GoPro or something. And you have this additional print for a different sort of antenna that you can mount down here. I'm not sure why, but yeah, we got two different T-style mount antennas. We have the Red Fox A3 flight controller, kind of a wiring map that you might need for repair purposes later on, in 2 languages. And it comes with 2 sheets of stickers. The OasisFly isn't even on there. It weighs 180.3 grams. With the Sub250 720 milliamp 4S battery, which it's the G&B battery with a different label on it, it weighs 246.98-ish grams. Oddly enough, with the 650 milliamp 4S G&B battery, it weighs just a touch over 250. And if weight is not a concern, the 850 4S battery from G&B, it comes in at 267.36 grams. Arm thickness is 3 millimeters thick, and looks like right about 8 millimeters wide. Bottom carbon fiber plate is 2.5 millimeters thick, and so is the rear. And motor post to motor post, I'm getting just about 150 millimeters. Unfortunately, we've got an overcast day on the flights that I've selected. Actually, I've got a crash that I'll show that was my really only substantial crash, where I bounce off the chimney and then I fly across this patio area and end up landing on the pool cover. as well as this main flight here. And my battery testing, of all things, came on a different day that looked really the same. Also with the grass getting greener, I didn't color grade this or anything, but reviewing the footage, I noticed that the greens kind of looked a little bit different. And that's something that I don't think I've seen before out of O4s. By the way, if you're not familiar, this is the O4 DVR footage. You can see down there at the bottom right that I'm running 60 megabits per second, which is pretty normal with the O4 and Goggles 3, which is what I'm using. I'm also flying with the Radiomaster GX12. As far as the other specifications for this particular flight, of course, this is my more typical, more fun sort of flight style. You call it pod racing, you can call it racing-ish or freestyle-ish. But the temperature was 70 degrees. It was pretty nice out. I did a lot of flying on this particular day because it came over the course of the weekend. And then as well as the winds, relatively high, but I don't think nearly, as far as my feeling, when I'm sitting there at the table and I'm out in the yard when I had to go pick it up and stuff, I didn't feel the winds were actually this high. But what the winds were reporting was 17 to 24 miles per hour, and you could probably hear that wind every once in a while come and go from my flight audio camera that is sitting on the table about 3.5 feet from me. You might be able to tell I'm in a blue shirt sitting at the table, and I wear blue probably about 80% of the time, especially when I'm not at work. But I stated it right up front that I kind of felt like this was a pretty good freestyler. One of the things after a crash, I'll show it to you here, but one of the things that I kind of noted was this, it's responsive, but it's not responsive in sort of like what I think of as a race sort of format, so it's kind of a smooth freestyler. You could, of course, probably change that, move the feed forward up or fly with higher rates or something like that to make it a little bit more stick sensitive. But one of the things that was curious about that was I was wondering if that meant that it was going to have some excessive prop wash, which you've probably already seen me do a number of things with other quads, especially quads that are smaller prop because they're more sensitive to prop wash and getting that tuned out. But this one really didn't struggle with the prop wash and handling that prop wash. Like I said, after the crash that I have in this second sort of clip that I am going to show, I actually kind of fly it back and forth in some, I would say, negative flight scenarios where you can hear it just ever so slightly, but it's very minor. I was actually quite impressed with the combination of the weight, the motors, the props, and how well it handled the prop wash on it. So of course, that has a lot to do with the PID tune as well. So if you like to go out and cruise, or if you like to do some minor trickery that you might see that I'm doing here, I think you would have a very similar experience and thought, at least I would hope so, on kind of how I saw this one as being a smooth freestyler. It's not going to be a crazy light, hard to control quad, which we see from time to time on the channel. One of those that I think of in that category is the Crux 3.5. Of course, it's a bigger prop, but it was ridiculously lightweight, and I think for some people that one would be even a challenge because it would feel too floaty because of its super low weight and high power to weight ratio that it would have. But this one's pretty, call it grounded for lack of a better term, or a better descriptor by me. But I actually felt that it was, I've said it a few times, it was real smooth. It held its track. I wasn't getting blown off my course or anything like that. I even came out from some power loops that were relatively too flat, and it handled the prop wash just fine. And it's going to fly for 4 minutes here as we come into land. And sure enough, the battery's going to recover right up to 3.5 volts per cell.
Boom shikala.
Okay, we're going to go into that crash. I just chimney dive. That's where I cut it off. Don't worry, this is only going to take us about a minute. This is on a 650 milliamp battery, by the way, and the other flight that I showed you, the full flight, was on a 720. Those are well-used 720s because I've been using those a lot over the last year, so not fresh, out of the package. And in a moment here, I'm going to have my most severe crash. And this particular day, it was probably one of my first flights on the main flight that I showed you today. And I clip the chimney here, and then I disarm immediately. That's one of my protections. I bounce or skid off of the cement around the pool and end up on the pool cover. And then I'm going to be quiet here for a second, because after I get it up in the air and I kind of test its worthiness, then I'm going to kind of run it back and forth. And this is where you might be able to hear a little bit of that prop wash that I was able to draw out. There wasn't a lot there, but hopefully you could hear it as I kind of went back and forth. And I wasn't doing a very good job on the throttle either. Hey, one more clip I'm going to show you. Same flight day, but it's kind of funny. I remembered seeing this just when I paused my recording. I'm going to punch over the house, and then I'm going to kind of let go of the sticks. Or my fingers slip off the sticks or something. It was real bizarre, but it was just one of those moments that, you know, just strangely happened. And I like to share those quirky things that happen to us when we fly. I don't know. It's just one of the things I like to share. So I threw this clip in as well. I didn't get to it during the main flight, but our flight times on an 850, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. On the 720s, I got right at about 6 minutes, and on a 650, about 5 minutes and 50 seconds. That's in a slower, cruisy sort of flight style, and I'll put a little sample of it if I had it running up there already. Again, same camera angle on those battery testings, not just these batteries. These are just representatives of the batteries that I had out. I had 3 of each battery. So 1 more of this size of battery and 2 more of this size and that size. But I had the same camera angle. I just wasn't doing any punch outs or any big maneuvers over the house or really hard, brisky sort of moves, you know, around the trees, doing the weave around the trees or around the posts in the cabana or something like that. Just more exploratory sort of flat sort of flying is the flight times that I got. Of course, on the 720 in the main flight where I do all my typical stuff, got right at about 4 minutes for the most part, unless I crashed out, then we didn't necessarily get there. On the 650, we got pretty close to that, but again, about 10 seconds less on the 650. But the 650s, when you get towards the end of the battery, tend to respond a little better to the more throttle-centric moves than the 720s do. That's just something about this style of battery versus these elongated style and flatter batteries. The smaller size batteries have a very similar flight time to these 720s, but they're just more aggressive is another way I might describe it at the end of the battery, where this gets a little bit more tame. It just can't hold its voltage out as much. Okay, so my top complaint is this dongle. I'm not a fan of these because what happens if you lose this? Can you get another one? And even if you can, what a pain to have to order another one. And if you need access to the flight controller for some reason, you have to wait for this component to show up. I know they could have worked in some wiring, so they could have made a port back here so that this could have been mounted. That may have complicated the design. It is a little bit fussy to get this in because it's not directly out here at an angle. I did use a curved set of tweezers in order to plug and unplug this because I couldn't get my fingers in there. You know, even with props off, I couldn't get my fingers into that spot because it's set back here into the frame a little bit. Like I said in the intro, I didn't have any issues with these plates coming off, or obviously they didn't break. They do offer the print files on their website. Right now it shows the 03 version print files, which I presume these are either very, very similar. When this gets listed on the website, and to my surprise, it's not listed on the website. I've had this up and running for a week, so I'm not certain why it's not on the website yet, but hopefully when you're watching this, it is on the website, and if you want to go check it out, there'll be a link down in the video description. But I would presume, because the 03 version had the STL or print files available, that the 04 version will as well. The mounting here for the 03 you might be interested in. It's just stock screws, just like you would expect. We do have posts here in the rear. You can't really see them around that print. They're pretty thin posts. They're not the thicker posts like I think they're 3mm posts. So they're probably the 2mm, not millimeter, but as far as the screw hole size, obviously they're 1.5mm. They're thinner post size. I'm having a hard time putting a number on that. But we've also got posts in here, and then we have the metal structure up here in the front, which is kind of this beveled sort of metal. I presume that's some sort of aircraft grade aluminum or something like that. That does provide us a little bit of camera protection. And the camera did lock in. I didn't find that it moves, even with the rubber pieces that we have down here. There is another rubber piece that they included that goes up here. I presume that that's for a different camera, maybe the Walksnail version. I'm just not certain. If you're looking to build this frame out, make sure you look at the product webpage to to look up the specifications as far as what VTX and cameras do fit in which versions, because I don't keep that stuff fresh in my head. There is a lot of screws, so if you had a major repair, you might be taking out a few screws for a while. I think one other question, let's see, we we got 3 screws in each arm. So if you broke an arm, and they are independent, you can see back here how there's kind of split. You take out the 3 screws, and then you could slide your arm out. Of course, you got to take your motor screws out as well. So you would have 7 total screws for each arm if you had to replace an arm. But overall, we've seen this design a few times, and I'm glad they do have feet, because one of the things I always have to warn about is if you come in a landing and you land on a hard surface like asphalt or the road or something like that, if you have a tendency to slide without these feet, you'd be slowly wearing the heads of these down, and then one day you'll find your hex driver doesn't get a good bite to where you can unscrew these, and it comes on a field repair day and it doesn't work out for you. Yeah, so the feet will come in handy. You know, of course, you have to keep your eye on those because they are going to wear down over time as well. Hopefully, they have the print file available for the feet to help, you know, be able to replace those if you have a 3D printer or an access to 3D printer. And if not, you can always order a 3D print. I think all of our FPV shops, for the most part, offer a 3D printing service. There's tons of 3D printing services out there as well. You don't have. Of course, if you wanted to shed a little bit of weight, you could do your own thing by just removing these. These aren't necessary either. Well, this one on this side is necessary because it's actually, you might be able to tell, it's holding the receiver. So you can't, well, the flap you can remove, but there's a plastic piece in there, not plastic, it's a print that's sitting on top of the VTX that's got a holster in it for the receiver. So you can remove the side piece. You're going to have to remove all of this through here and kind of slide the standoff out back, because this does go around the standoff. I don't see where it clipped on when I had it apart. It looked like it went all the way around. At least I didn't test it to the point of breaking it, of course, but it looked like the little clippy parts for the back end here went all the way around. So these can move out a little bit, but they won't come free and loose. They actually do a pretty decent job as far as staying flush up against the quad. It's interesting they went white here and white with the holster, but their company green and all the other places. I wonder why that is. Wonder if that was just for pizzazz or flair, as they said in Office Space. But I really don't have any complaints about the construction. If you have any complaints that you see about the construction, please let me know. I could have been I missed something, and that would be good for others who might be considering building this from a frame or buying this as a bind and fly. I get many questions from people that are asking about DJI controllers and goggles and compatibility. I link a compatibility chart down in the video description. It'll be well below some of the other things, and you can look at that chart to discern what equipment you have and if it's compatible with an 04. If you're looking to use a DJI remote with this that is compatible with the 04, you would need to order I believe it's the plug and play version or P&P version. That would come without a receiver. And hopefully, I still haven't gotten too many confirmations that companies that are sending that version are sending them with, you know, S-Bus from the air unit connected up to the S-Bus and Betaflight configured for the S-Bus. Because essentially that's what you're going to need to use the VTX or the 04 as your link for control. But yeah, as I said with the intro and with all the details, a pretty smooth freesteller that I thought handled prop wash pretty well, so you don't have to really finesse, specifically when you're coming down from those vertical moves. You don't have to really finesse the throttle very heavily. There was a couple times I came in relatively flat, and I thought it handled it real well. Then, of course, we had the little post-crash clip where I actually was flying it back and forth and not doing a very good job on the throttle management side to bleed out that prop wash, and you could kind of hear it. Could see it just a touch, and I was trying to be quiet during that point. And only the real one discernible crash that was or noteworthy crash. So I thought overall I was pretty impressed with this. Unfortunately, because it's not on the website yet, I don't know if they sent me this early or something. I got no communication that I can recall that they were sending this for review. And yes, this was sent for review. I did not pay for this, but it's not listed on their website, so I can't quote you a price or anything, so we'll just have to rely on the link down the video description. If I had to guess, probably somewhere around $450 for a bind and fly version, whether that's with Express LRS Crossfire or the plug and play version for DJI controllers. I'm guessing that's about the market, maybe 480, 490 even. That's kind of what we've been seeing in this style and sort of quad. So it's a good chunk of change. So make sure you do your research before spending any of your money. But as I said, I'll put a link to the Sub250 product page for the OasisFly30 down in the video description, and any other place that I can find it when it's available. So if you see it at your favorite FPV shop, please let me know, and I will link it down in the video description. It doesn't have to be an affiliate link. I'm not tied to that sort of stuff. I use it if it's available or I'm aware it's available. And if not, that's cool. You need to spend your money where you want to spend your money. You don't need to follow my pushing you one way or another. But if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the Sub250 OasisFly30 with the O4, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.